Hello, is that working? Hello, I guess this is live. Hello, I don't know what I'm seeing. I guess this is live. Hello, I'm live streaming from my PC for the first time. I don't know what I'm seeing. I guess this is live. So what I'm trying to figure out is how to show myself first. How to live streaming from my PC for the first time. I don't know what I'm seeing. I guess this is live. So what I'm trying to figure out is how to show myself. I see live streaming from my PC. I don't know what I'm seeing. I guess this is live. So what I'm trying to figure out is how to show myself. I see live streaming from my PC. I don't know what I'm seeing. I guess this is live. So what I'm trying to figure out is how to show myself. I see live streaming from my PC. I don't know what I'm seeing. I guess this is live. So what I'm trying to figure out is how to show myself. I see. Alright. I guess I'm live now. Alright. So I guess this is how to show my desk. I'm live now. Alright. So I guess this is how to show my desk. I'm live now. Alright. So I guess this is how to show my desk. I'm live now. Alright. Capture. So I guess this is how to show my desk. I'm live now. Alright. Capture. So I guess this is how to show my desk. I'm live now. Alright. Capture. So I guess this is how to show my desk. I'm live now. Alright. Capture. So I guess this is how to show my desk. I'm live now. Alright. Capture. So I guess this is how to show my desk. I'm live now. Alright. Capture. So I guess this is how to show my desk. I'm live now. Alright. Capture. So I guess this is how to show my desk. I'm live now. Alright. Capture. So I display capture. Oh, I'm stupid. Plus display capture. Screen on display capture. Oh, I'm stupid. Okay. Plus I'll put this on side. Display capture. Screen on display capture. Oh, I'm stupid. Okay. Okay. I'll put this on side. Where display capture. Screen on display capture. Oh, alright. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, I'll put this on side. Where display capture. Screen on display capture. Oh, alright. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, I'll put this on side. Where display capture. Screen on display capture. Oh, alright. So, hello everyone. This is my first broadcast on YouTube. Live on display capture. Oh, alright. So, hello everyone. Try to learn. This is how it works. First in broadcast on YouTube. A live stream on space. So, hello everyone. Try to learn. This is how it works. First in broadcast on lifting off in a live stream on space. So I just learned how to learn this is how it works. Stream with lifting off in a live stream on space. So I just learned how to learn this is how it works. Stream with lifting off in a live stream on space. So I just learned how to learn this is how it works. Stream with lifting off in a live stream on space. So I just learned how to learn this is how it works. Initially open scrolling at lifting off in a live stream on space. So I just learned how to learn this is how it works. Initially open scrolling at lifting off in a live stream on space. So I just learned how to learn this is how it works. California time is up. Let's see. SpaceX news. Let's see what's new. Elon Musk shows off the Tesla Roadster that SpaceX received. Okay, everyone is writing about it. Someone even has a video. It's a Fortune magazine. Let's watch it. Come on.
SpaceX has successfully tested the abort mechanism on its Dragon space capsule. Robert, does this mean SpaceX is going to win the space race?
SpaceX is light years ahead of the competition, Andrew. This is not a moonshot.
I mean, is there sound in my live stream? Let's see. If I go home on the phone, it says that I'm streaming. Whoa, there's also ad.
ML Choco Yoko, liquid analgesic from Japan.
Okay. Whoa, there's also ad.
ML Choco Yoko, liquid analgesic from Japan.
Whoa, there's also ad.
ML Choco Yoko, liquid analgesic from Japan.
Okay, that's not good. Yeah, the sound, the sound is there. I just cannot hear it. So the great thing is there also ads on my stream from the very first moment, which is cool. Let's see. This picture is amazing. I love it. I really wish someday I can go to the Cape and watch one of these launches live. It seems that the grid fins are different on the side posters and on the central core. If you have a look at the left and right, they're in gray, so I guess they're titanium, and these are white. I assume the aluminum ones. It's amazing. I've been to Cape Canaveral once. I took a picture with the what was the rocket name? The Apollo rocket. Behind the engines, they're gigantic. I guess these are not so big, but the Apollo rocket engines are huge. Yeah, today's flight is not going to be as exciting as the others because there's no landing, but the next one definitely is going to be the most exciting in, I don't know, for me ever. It's going to be the first time Falcon Heavy is going to fly, and chances are that it can explode and cause a very big damage on the pad, and this will slow down again everything in SpaceX for the next several months or maybe more than a year. So I really hope if it explodes, it's, you know, high in the sky or doesn't explode at all. But if it does, it better be above the pad, not on it. Just got another notification from SpaceX now, which is a pretty nice app. Telling me about that SpaceX started their webcast. Problem is I cannot hear anything from the webcast. I guess that's because I'm live streaming, and if I hear anything from the speakers, that's gonna cause like repeating it in the microphone. I don't know how it's supposed to do it, but it's gonna ruin the sound. So I'm gonna take things off for them. But how can I listen to? Let me see if I can hear the music from. Let me see if I can hear the music from. Yeah. So the music is there. Question is, how can I hear the music? And maybe I can try it. I need to find my. know always hiding the picture of myself. Goodbye, office. 14,000 people are watching. At the same time, my podcast is what's only 5 minutes. I know. Yeah, it's me, streaming live, but no sound. Let's see if I can configure somehow this one to sources, scene. Okay. Very interesting. Screen one or command. But where is it? Okay. Maybe this is a way to pull it over or something. Let's see. There's no edit. and quality. And I'm gonna increase this to 58 and for color I pick red. Okay, and I'm gonna put it here. Let's move this out of the way. Nope, that doesn't look good. 35 minimize.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. And liftoff of Falcon 9.
Figure out how to watch it if I don't.
Good evening from Hawthorne, California. It is December 22nd, just after 5:12 p.m. Pacific Time. Welcome to the webcast of the Falcon 9 mission, carrying the fourth flight of 10 Iridium Next satellites. You're seeing the live view of Falcon 9 as we prepare for launch in just over 10 minutes, sunset just having occurred here on the west coast of the United States. Launch is scheduled for 1 hour, 27 minutes, 34 seconds Universal Time, or 5:27:34 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I'm John Innsbrucker, Falcon 9 Principal Integration Engineer, and I will be bringing you coverage of the SpaceX launch for Iridium Next during today's webcast. Now, this is our fourth of 8 planned launches for Iridium. It's also our fourth Iridium flight in 2017. We started in January with Iridium 1, and we're wrapping up 2017 with Iridium 4.
Someday I'll have some actual outing here. Bye.
Other than a 20-story building, it's in the darkness just after sunset. Now, the first stage provides the initial force to get out of the majority of the Earth's atmosphere. The first stage in the close-ups is the stage that has the SpaceX logo on it. For that first stage, this will be its second flight, the first having been on the Iridium 2 mission earlier this summer. Now, what you may have noticed in our camera views is the first stage does not have landing legs for this flight, although grid fins are installed. SpaceX does not plan to recover this first stage. A landing sequence out in the Pacific Ocean will be performed, but there is no drone ship in position for recovery. SpaceX will not be following the first stage during the webcast, although you may hear callouts on the countdown net while we are following the second stage as it goes into orbit. Also of note, you may notice the inner stage looks slightly dark, sooty from the last flight, and it is. There was no need after it was recovered to totally clean and repaint that inner stage. Now, on top of the first stage is the second stage. That will take the satellite from the stage separation altitude of just over 70 kilometers at the edge of space and accelerate it up to the orbital speed of just over 7.5 kilometers per second, or about 17,500 miles per hour, 10 times faster than a bullet. Finally, there in the view, you can see with the Iridium Next logo at the very top, the 17-foot diameter payload fairing, inside of which are 10 Iridium satellites. And then finally, the large white structure next to the rocket is our transporter erector. As a reminder, unlike the East Coast, here on the West Coast, the transporter erector will move away starting at about T-minus 5 minutes to a position 77.5 degrees away from the rocket just before T0.
Let's see, maybe I have to adjust my face. Yeah. It's interesting if all this is the same thing, or it's a more.
T-minus 10 minutes, we're counting down. Launch again planned at 27 minutes, 34 seconds after the hour. Currently on the Falcon 9, the good news is the SpaceX team is working no significant issues. We began loading fuel into the first stage on time at T-minus 70 minutes. Fuel is now essentially loaded on the first stage. We'll top it off with just a little bit from about T-minus 7 minutes to T-minus 6 minutes, and that'll finish the first stage fuel. We are loading liquid oxygen onto both stages. Stage 1 is about 80-some% complete. Stage 2 is a little more than half full. That liquid oxygen loading will continue up until the last minutes of the countdown. First stage completing at about T-minus 3 minutes. Second stage LOX loading will complete about T-minus 2 minutes. You should hear those countdowns over the countdown net as we listen to the last minutes. Now right now the next major activity planned is in 2 minutes at T-minus 7. That'll be the opening of the pre-valves between the first stage propellant tanks and the 9 Merlin 1D engines at the bottom of the first stage. That'll allow liquid oxygen to bleed through the turbo pumps, begin chilling them down to prepare them for the ignition that comes just a couple seconds before T0. On top of the Falcon 9, shown within again the payload fairing with the Iridium Next logo on it, are the 10 Iridium satellites. The Iridium team working no issues. They have gone to internal power and they are ready for launch. Today for the range, we're operating out of Vandenberg, the head of the Western Range. Everything looks good from the Air Force. Support is in place, ready for an on-time launch. And then finally, the weather. The good news is we don't have to do anything about the weather. The Air Force weather officer has given us a 0% probability of violating conditions. Upper altitude jet stream looks like it's in control. Ground level winds, as you can see, are very light. We're hardly blowing any of the mist away from the rocket. The cold moisture condensing from the chill of liquid oxygen in the stages. So at 7 minutes 54 seconds, everything is looking good.
I wonder if they're gonna put the Tesla logo on the Falcon Heavy flag. It's gonna be wonderful. Alright, that's boring.
Now today, SpaceX is launching 10 Iridium Next satellites to LEO. That's short for Low Earth Orbit. Now each of the 10 satellites has a mass of about 600 kilograms, and it's got solar arrays that are currently folded up alongside each satellite. Once they're in space, the solar arrays will fully deploy, and the Iridium Next satellite will have a wingspan of approximately 9 meters in length. Now in order to correctly position the satellites into the right orbital plane, that means we have to launch right on time today. Our launch window is 1 second long. Now if you hear the dreaded hold in the countdown, that means we're going to have to recycle and try again another day. There is a backup opportunity tomorrow, about 6 minutes later. Finally, when the second stage gets into the final orbit later this evening, we'll be at 625 kilometers altitude. From there, we'll release the 10 Iridium satellites. They will make the maneuvers to their final orbits. Now that event sequence will last 15 minutes, and we're going to hope to bring that to you using a camera on the second stage later on. But for now, we've got Matt Desch with some of the unique features of the Iridium system.
When we were envisioning Iridium Next, a whole constellation of 66 new satellites going around the Earth to replace our network, we realized what an incredible real estate this is. This is really, really important real estate to be so close to the Earth with a network all interconnected in space. What if other sensors could be put on our satellites? What if other things that really wanted to see the Earth as a complete entity could also be on the satellite with us? We decided to put a payload about this big to monitor aircraft, and it operates completely independently of our communication system. It doesn't use the same radio frequencies or anything, but what it's doing is listening for the transmissions of every aircraft in the world, all of whom are broadcast at a very specific frequency and a very specific language called ADSB, their identity, their location, their speed, their position, their altitude. And while ground towers typically pick up those receptions, we knew that we were so close to the Earth, and with an interconnected satellite system, we could hear those transmissions and relay them in real time to an air traffic controller. And that would allow airplanes to fly much more efficiently point to point. They'd be able to climb faster. They'd be able to fly in places where there was no radar coverage today, but fly just as safely and as efficiently as they do when they were in radar coverage. Every one of our new satellites has one of these receivers on them. In fact, they're processing billions of messages a day already from airplanes. And when the full network is complete, that is going to provide a 100% picture of the real-time location of every airplane on the planet. And it's exciting because we've created this whole new business that isn't even related to our core communication competency by using this hosted payload, as it's called. We also had the company that created this payload put a few other things in there, including the ability to monitor all ships in real time. And that's quite exciting. Today, we pick up large ships as they're traveling around the world. They can be out of touch and out of reach. And so for the first time ever, there'll be 100% picture of every ship in the ocean, picking up the unique frequencies transmitted by every ship as it's trying to send out its information to nearby ships. But we'll pick it up as we pass overhead and relay that to the agencies, the Coast Guards, the maritime organizations that really want to know in real time where every large ship is traveling in the world for safety and security. And that's exciting. It's a whole new business that just rides along with our communication payload and really creates a whole new technical innovation, a whole new business around our business that expands the power and potential of this unique global constellation of satellites.
T-minus 2 minutes 40 seconds, continuing to count down for a launch. Everything looks good. While we're watching that video, the team has moved the Strongback away from the Falcon 9. We've done thrust vector control checkouts on the upper stage engine. We've done alignment of the guidance system. We've completed fuel loading on first and second stage, and we have just ended LOX loading on stage 1. So we're down to loading LOX on stage 2. Then we'll go into the final countdown sequence starting at T-minus 1 minute. Now, one note coming up at about 90 seconds, if you see and hear a large venting off of the Strongback, that's normal. We'll be draining liquid oxygen out of the structure alongside of the rocket, and sometimes that'll condense a lot of the moisture in the air at Vandenberg into a cloud. But for that, Iridium is go. The range has just announced their green. The weather is go. So we're going to listen into the last minute and 45 of the countdown of Falcon 9 with Iridium next.
Oh, shit.
Vehicles in self-line.
Oh, I did nice.
Vehicle gas closeouts have started.
Actually, I was not planning to watch this flight. I mean, begins to become boring, and I guess this is the
ready for launch.
Success. The one said that if it becomes boring, that means that we achieved our goal.
Falcon 9's in startup.
But I did sleep too much today, so I decided to watch it.
Stage 2 tanks pressing for flight.
Nope.
LV is go for launch.
Alright,
T-minus 30 seconds.
Stage 1 tanks pressing for flight.
15.
T-minus 60 seconds. On Twitter.
10. 9. 8. 7. 6. 5. 4. 3. 2. 1. Liftoff. Falcon 9.
Vehicle clear the tower.
slowly falling down, creating how fast they accelerate.
Moving to 3.170.
Current telemetry on Conroe.
I'm not an expert, but I think they're not trying to recover these stages because I think this is a polar orbit. And if I understand it correctly,
2 plus a minute 10 into flight.
flies
We've
towards
just gone through throttle down and throttle back up of the Falcon 9 first stage engines.
it's mainly
We've gone through max Q on the first stage. First stage continues to look good on the engines. Headed downrange away from Vandenberg Air Force Base.
It would be really cool if they can show a view from the camera from the first stage while it's going down. To see what happens when it goes through the atmosphere.
We're chilling in the MVAC engine 2 minutes into flight, getting it ready for ignition. Next major event coming up in 30 seconds is shutdown of the 9 first stage engines, followed by stage separation and ignition of the second stage engine. Shortly after that, we hope to get a view of payload fairing separation from the second stage.
Miko.
Full separation complete.
Feedback from startup.
We've had successful separation and ignition of the upper stage engine. First words from propulsion, things look good on the upper stage engine and the second stage. Next up, we should see fairing separation.
Fairing separation complete.
You hear the applause from the team gathered around Mission Control Center here in Hawthorne. It's 5:30 in the evening. Second shift is in. They're watching the flight. Fairing separation looked very good, exposing the 10 Iridium Next satellites to the vacuum of outer space. We're 3.5 minutes plus into flight. Second stage performance continues to look excellent. T plus 4 minutes into flight. Falcon 9 second stage continues to perform nominally. Power on the engine looks good. Avionics looks good. Guidance looks, we're on track, headed south away from California, eventually overflying the South Polar Cap on our way off of Eastern Africa, where we'll eventually deploy, later in the webcast, the 10 Iridium Next satellites. T plus 5 minutes into flight, you can see the camera views looking back on the nozzle of the MVAC-D Merlin vacuum engine. Red hot, which is just what we expect at this stage of flight. The engine is at full power, continuing to perform normally, as I like to say. And meanwhile, the second stage is on trajectory, headed for its initial low Earth parking orbit. We'll talk a little bit more about that later on, but for now, everything continues to look good. T plus 6 minutes into flight. Falcon 9, second stage carrying 10 Iridium Next satellites, is currently west and south of the tip of Baja, California. I hope that everybody in Southern California had a great view of the launch this evening. We've had clear skies, the rocket launching about half an hour after sunset. Now currently we're in burn 1. This takes us into the low Earth parking orbit. That's a temporary orbit that we'll be in for about half an orbit around the Earth before we relight the upper stage engine, and that will move us with its second burn into the final orbit. We'll be bringing you that second burn later on in the webcast.
I wonder how they're going to show all 3 stages at the same time.
Stage 1 entry burn.
And when will be the next Falcon 9, Falcon Heavy flight? Let's see what SpaceX now says.
Entry shut down.
There's no mission for Falcon Heavy.
Stage 1. ASTS.
7.5 minutes into flight. Falcon 9 second stage continues to perform well. We are continuing on the desired trajectory, headed south from Vandenberg Air Force Base, California, heading into an approximate polar orbit with the Iridium Next satellites. Now, as I mentioned, we're going to have 2 burns. We're in the first burn right now. This is the long burn, just over 6 minutes. We're beginning to throttle down power on the upper stage engine, preparing for shutdown about a minute from now. Meanwhile, we'll then go into a coast period of 42 minutes between the end of the burn that we're on now and then the relight that'll come over the eastern hemisphere. So during that coast phase, we're going to pause live commentary. We'll have a map so that you can see our path as we go over the southern polar regions en route to going east of Africa. We've heard the call out. Stage 2 flight termination system has safed in preparation for going into orbit. Once we go into orbit, we'll wait to hear a call from the Guidance Nav and Control Engineer, called GNC, on the quality of that orbit.
Yeah. Okay. Is it boring now? I bet there's not more than 30,000 people watching.
And we've had good shutdown of the second stage engine. Now we're waiting to hear and take a look at the orbit.
Oh, his one is there.
And we've heard the call out, a good nominal orbit insertion.
Alright, stage 1 has splashed
So
down.
currently the first stage mission has completed. We separated the second stage, it took over, did a burn lasting just over 6 minutes. We've had shutdown on that first burn of the second stage engine. We're in a good orbit. We're going to go into a coast phase now, followed by a relight of the upper stage engine. So we're going to stop live commentary right now. I'll get ready for coming back on at T plus 51 minutes, about 41 minutes from now. So with that, we'll leave you with a map of the progress of Falcon 9, still with the 10 Iridium Next satellites, made it to the payload dispenser, and we'll be back to watch the second burn and then the eventual release of the 10 satellites.
Okay, so this is not the problem. They can put the ship there. They could have recovered this.
has.